Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final webcast streaming from the AAS meeting in Seattle, Washington. My name is Tony Darnell. I work at the Space Telescope Science Institute, and with me is Dr. Carol Christian, also from the Space Telescope Science Institute. And what we're going to do every day at this time is we're going to just take a moment and kind of reflect on what we've seen during the day, the kinds of the biggest press releases or news stories or discoveries that have stood out to us, and kind of share them with you. I don't know if you guys remember. If you remember back when I first started Space Fan News, I started it in January, I think about 3-4 years ago, and I did it because I wanted to cover the news that was happening at the winter meeting, because that's always the biggest one. They have two, and usually the biggest one is in the winter, and they also do one in the spring. And I started Space Fan News just to cover those things. Well, now, look at me. I'm here, I'm at the meeting, and I'm live streaming from it and being able to talk to some of the best astronomers, the most amazing people, and talk about the latest in astronomy happenings. So it's been a long haul. It's been really great. But so Carol, tell me, so you've been around. I've been busy doing this all day. You've actually been able to interact with people.
I have a little bit. Let me talk a little bit about the format of the meeting for those of you who are not familiar with it. So the way this works is that in the morning there's usually a talk around 8:30 or 9 for about an hour, and that's in the big ballroom. Lots of the attendees go to that. And then we have a bunch of sessions after that where different topics are discussed. So people who are interested in exoplanets or supernova or galaxies or distant cosmology present papers, little snippets, 10-minute papers on research that they're doing that are in progress. During that period in the morning, we also have a coffee break for all of us with jet lag, and also a press conference. Then at noon, there's a couple of town halls and other large discussions of interest to the community. And then the afternoon, we have a bunch of parallel sessions again, and then we have a reception. So we're winding down the sessions now, and what happened today was in the morning there were a bunch of sessions about a variety of topics again, and also there are a lot of posters too, that people present posters and they can show what they're doing, and then they can stand by the poster and explain. They're all around us. There are people everywhere talking about their research so that they can do more in-depth discussion of the research that they're doing without being restricted to a 10-minute talk. So, and that's also a good way to get to know people that are in your field or interested in the same thing as you are, but that you don't know. So a lot of networking, exchanging ideas, and making plans for drinks after. So this morning, there was a session, a press conference on exoplanets. So there were a lot of discussion of what the Kepler results have been, all the planets that have been confirmed by Kepler, and then now we're starting to dig into a lot of those planets and other planets that have been discovered, looking for water, looking for methane, looking for all those chemical elements that suggest that on some of these planets there are good environments for the formation of life, of course. People are always interested in, well, can the star system make planets? And if they make planets, do those star systems have planets in the right area, right temperature, right chemistry, right everything, in order to maybe make at least microbial life? Now, we're a long way away from discovering microbial life, but that was the big discussion this morning. I also wanted to say that a lot of what goes on, Tony, as you well know, is there's a lot of talk in the hallways. You meet people in the exhibit hall, or you talk to somebody in the hallway, you see people, what's going on, you hear the latest news. So there's a lot of information, so it's really important to come to the meeting and talk to people so that you find out behind the scenes what's going on.
Yeah, when they found out we were live streaming all of this, the AAS did, they were very cautious, they were very worried. But
like,
no one's going to come to the meeting, but it's, nothing replaces the interaction face to face.
Really, you have to come, see the posters, listen to the talks, and then interact with people. So, but it's a good record. We will have the record of these streaming events, which is great. There was actually an interesting, throughout the meeting there are some, a little bit what I would say, they're on topic, but not just research. And there apparently was a talk today by a professor from George Washington University about space policy. And he was trying to lay the landscape of where does astronomy fit in NASA, and where does NASA fit in the United States or in general in the global space community, and how we astronomers can make our case for the kind of research facilities we want in the future and what kind of problems we are trying to address out there. So we have to base what we want to do on what we know today and then speculate, gee, in 10 years we're going to need blah, blah, blah. And we have an opportunity in 2020 to produce another decadal report on where the science is and what kind of facilities are going to be needed.
Yeah, that's something astronomers do every 10 years.
We do it every 10 years, but the preparation has to be made now so that we can look at what technologies, we have to do studies, all that kind of stuff.
So what did he say? What did he come to any conclusions about?
Well, what he was saying was that trying to think a little bit outside of our little bubble, of think of how you make the case to other sciences. Why is a facility of interest to astronomers, and why is that important for science in general? And then why is it in the public interest to have those facilities? So we can't just be thinking about, gee, I really would like to have another Hubble Space Telescope, which we would love to have, but we need to think of it in the larger view. But astronomy's doing very well. His other point is astronomy's doing very well because we do make our case, and we do events like this.
Right.
We love sharing with the public on what we're doing.
So NASA does have a good, important part in astronomy.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing that the public doesn't realize, and I hope our viewers really do understand, is that the NASA budget is a tiny percentage of the U.S. budget.
Yes.
People always think it's like the same as the Department of Defense. It's not.
Nowhere
It
near.
is a tiny, it's not even a penny on the tax dollar for every tax dollar paid. So it's a tiny fraction of that, and we need to help people understand that those little tiny pennies are really going a long way for advancing science.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's also sort of constrained the human component of our spaceflight program too. This budget has just been pretty flat for a really long time.
Exactly, but we're doing okay. We're not being cut, so that's a good thing. So we need to think about what we're going to do in the next 20 years. So after the exoplanet discussion, then of course you had a hangout on sunshades, and exoplanets and other astronomical objects will benefit for the sunshade. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, just a little snippet of that hangout.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it was this. We talked with the project astronomer and one of the engineers from the Starshade project. They've tested successfully in the desert the concept. What they did was they set up a very light bright source in the desert, and they had a star shade move in front of it, and then they had their detectors set away kilometers away, just from the light source, and they were able to confirm. They had several small planets right next to it. They were able, or light sources next to it, that were supposed to simulate what a planet would look like in orbit around that star, and they were able to find and see those planets. And we're talking about looking at something that's 10 million times brighter or dimmer than its companion star. So the testing of the concept of star shades has been set. They're waiting, I think, now to start. They're doing a lot of preliminary testing on the space-based hardware, but Northrop Grumman is going forward with the project. It's a really exciting one.
And so that's a case where it's become clearer that the people who are studying exoplanets, they say, well, we need to be able to look for these planets really close to bright stars. And I have a bright light in front of me now, but if I put my fist up and block it, I can actually see the rest of the ceiling. And so this is the same idea. You block out the bright light of the star, and you can see what's surrounded. That also works in galaxies. Block out the bright light from the center, see what's around the rest of the galaxy. So it's an important thing where we talk about what the science need is, and then we talk about, okay, what do we need to build in order to investigate these things further?
So what else you got for us, Carol?
Well, my notes show that I actually did go to, well, I went to a team meeting. I'm on a team where we're studying a lot of galaxies, and that was interesting because this team always works on telecons. So this is, and we do use WebEx, and we sometimes see each other, but it was the first time that we actually saw each other face to face. So that was kind of fun, and we got to meet each other and talk about each individual person's role in this very big project. So that I enjoyed quite a lot. And then we had a press conference in the afternoon where we had a number of results that were showcased that are about the Milky Way galaxy and the surroundings. So that would be the Large Magellanic Cloud, the Small Magellanic Cloud, and the Andromeda M31 galaxy, which is a companion to ours. So that group of four are kind of a little group together, and so the press release is about the kind of research that's been being done, and some of the highlights are that one group has been looking at the center of our galaxy, and there have been some gas clouds and some flaring coming from the center, and there's a supermassive black hole there, and they're trying to understand how the material is going around and what's making the flaring. And they have lots of data, but they haven't been able to really figure out what's going on. So it's exciting, but it's kind of confusing. And then there's the beautiful M31 mosaic that is being examined for star clusters and looking for star formation, looking for background galaxies. And that has 13,000 pointings and 414 different tiles on the sky, covers about 40% of M31, and it's all Hubble data, and it's amazing, and it's on the web, and you can go in and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and see individual stars in our companion galaxy. So that was pretty exciting. There was somebody else who's studying bubbles that have shot out of our own galaxy from the center and have been able to look through those bubbles and try to determine where they came from, why are they there, and what the history and the future of those bubbles is going to be. And then we had, of course, the revealing of the M16 pillars 20 years later, and that presentation was made at the press conference, and then we just had a hangout on that. So that was pretty exciting.
So I guess we're going to be doing this every day. Carol and I will take a few minutes out, and we'll just kind of give a quick recap and let you know what we thought was interesting for the day. So we'll be here this time tomorrow as well. Tomorrow the hangout highlights will be, are we allowed to say what it is if the press conference doesn't come out? Like, can I say that?
We had the press conference.
Oh, it's already been out today.
Yeah, I don't have the list for tomorrow.
Okay, so tomorrow,
it might be on the AAS website, AAS.
No, but we have but we have our hangout scheduled. Our hangouts for tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the zoomable image that Carol was just talking about. We're going to have the team on here, and we're going to do that in front of this monitor here.
Yes,
we learned. Right, we did. Yeah, for those of you who just saw our recent hangout, you'll know that.
No, we made do for you.
Yes, that's right.
Bring you in for the real feeling of the meeting.
That's right. This is live. And also there'll be a JWST update at the Northrop Grumman booth with Scott Willoughby and John Ehrenberg, the chief engineer on JWST. So that'll be tomorrow as well. And Mark Clampin will be there as well. Yes. And that'll be at 10:30 in the morning Pacific time. And ours is going to be, is it 3:30 again? I think it's 3:30 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. And then right after that we'll do a recap.
And maybe we ought to look for some swag tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I haven't done that yet. I haven't found anything.
We don't have a lot of swag because, but there are some. So we'll nose around, see if we can find anything. Oh, yeah, we have Hubble. We have Hubble. That's like our swag.
Yeah, I got a little Hubble pin that I've never seen before.
There's a little bit of chocolate. That's it for us.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're getting something out of this. We're enjoying making these for you. Please leave comments and questions for us anytime you want on any of the social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, G+. We're around. Thank you all for watching. And as always,
keep looking. Let me talk a little bit about the format of the meeting for those of you who are not familiar with it. So the way this works is that in the morning there's usually a talk around 8:30 or 9 for about an hour, and that's in the big ballroom. Lots of the attendees go to that. And then we have a...
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final webcast streaming from the AAS meeting in Seattle, Washington. My name is Tony Darnell. I work at the Space Telescope Science Institute, and with me is Dr. Carol Christian, also from the Space Telescope Science Institute. And what we're going to do every day at this time is we're going to just take a moment and kind of reflect on what we've seen during the day, the kinds of the biggest press releases or news stories or discoveries that have stood out to us, and kind of share them with you. I don't know if you guys remember. If you remember back when I first started Space Fan News, I started it in January, I think about 4 years ago, and I did it because I wanted to cover the news that was happening at the winter meeting, because that's always the biggest one. They have two, and usually the biggest one is in the winter, and they also do one in the spring. And I started Space Fan News just to cover those things. Well, now, look at me. I'm here, I'm at the meeting, and I'm live streaming from it and being able to talk to some of the best astronomers, the most amazing people, and talk about the latest in astronomy happenings. So it's been a long haul. It's been really great. But so Carol, tell me, so you've been around. I've been busy doing this all day. You've actually been able to interact with people.